The biggest thing I would look at has nothing to do with the numbers, because it's typically not the largest hurdle that you have to overcome. Those are typically much easier to overcome. I would want to find out where all the dead bodies are buried. Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez.
And me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day. Chances are that you may or may not be thinking about buying an affiliate. And if you are, definitely don't listen to this podcast.
Or if you just bought one, turn it off immediately.
Yeah, there will be no value here. No, I'm just kidding. There is a significant uptick in affiliates being exchanged over the past, call it 36 months.
Yeah.
And we've seen this and corroborated this via multiple independent parties in the space. They're like, yeah, I'm seeing the exact same thing. A lot of turnover in the gyms.
Yeah.
And so we kind of want to talk through some of that if that's you. Mm-hmm. Some things to consider. Not so much the tactics involved there, just more like some high level concepts if that is going to be you. So we'll speak mainly to the buyer because that's the person that's going to continue to be in the space, not so much the seller.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how and why that happened.
Okay.
I think that we had an industry of people who were passionate about CrossFit and got involved and started their businesses, and the industry, the CrossFit industry in particular, was on the rise because it was a newer, younger thing. And it was climbing. And then we had that lovely pandemic that came in. And
I'm not aware of what was
it was a thing that happened.
Oh, okay.
And it caught a lot of people off guard because there were a lot of people who were kind of riding the natural growth of the industry and not growing or building their business through skill or through on purpose per se, or knew why it was happening, or it was kind of like accidental success. And then when that happened, there was a lot of people who got burned out really hard, really fast because it was already borderline unsustainable before. And then this really took the wind out of their sails. And that was really unfortunate to see because there was a lot of great gym owners or people who cared a lot who we lost in the process. Mm-hmm. Because the business wasn't healthy enough or strong enough to withstand it. Or maybe they were just in a market that was really aggressive with the lockdown stuff. But moral of the story is that we had kind of a cleaning out, if you will, or at very least a bunch of people who either had
trimming of the fat, if you will.
And so what happened was that there's no change in the desire for people to look and feel great, which CrossFit is best in the game for. You want to look and feel amazing, perform great, be healthy, and best thing that's happened to fitness ever, in our opinion. But you did have less gyms. You do have less gyms now. And so what I'm getting at is that we had a lot of people who were either forced to hand over the reins or just decided, I don't want to do this anymore, whatever reason. There's an entire new guard that has been coming in over the last 36 months. I'd say a pretty sizable amount of the industry turned over and is turning over still. And that is, although it sucks on one hand, it's also a good thing for people who are coming into this and are like, okay, but now I want to do this. I'm fresh. I have an opportunity to do what I want, what I love to do. Someone already opened the door for me. I think I can make this better. And that's what we're going to talk about.
I think it forced a level of seriousness in the industry about running in affiliates. What my hope is that we just don't repeat the cycle. So the people that are coming in and doing the same thing aren't coming in with the same level of naivete that the last group had. Mm-hmm. It's just like, oh, I'm not in it to make money. I love people. And I'm like, listen, the idea that those two things have to exist independently of each other is not accurate, right? And our contention, because we've seen it time and time again, is that when you run successful business, you only get to pour into those people and impact a higher number of them. The other version of that is short-lived and not nearly as effective. So what we want to, if you are buying an affiliate or you did just buy an affiliate, pay attention, right? Don't make the same mistakes from the gym owner that you just bought that from, because recognize, like, I don't care what you bought it for, you very likely, statistically speaking, just purchased a failing business. If you purchased it for less than $100,000, you purchased a failing business.
Yeah. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. That could be...
It could be a great thing for you.
That can be a great thing for you. But let's talk about, for the few people, or for the handful of people who are listening to this who maybe are pre-purchase, what would you be looking at in evaluating whether you are or are not going to buy this, and for how much?
The biggest thing I would look at has nothing to do with the numbers, because it's typically not the largest hurdle that you have to overcome. Those are typically much easier to overcome. I would want to find out where all the dead bodies are buried. I would want to know, what is the culture like? Who are the turds in the group? What are the underlying issues in there? What's the staff like? Like, what's the mood and the attitude of the affiliate? Because even if the numbers work and you're like, man, this is a steal, you are going to get bludgeoned with those other issues.
For sure.
I mean, just absolutely pummeled by it. And conversation today walks up to me, and within 60 seconds of that, there's tears. And this is a person purchased a gym and is dealing with that fundamental issue. All encapsulated, like, I've got culture issues and people don't listen.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's always the issue, right? Like, peopling the people, as I like to joke around. Like people are always going to be the crux of your problem.
Yeah.
So that is one of the first things I would try to ferret out, is like, man, are there any underlying like real problems in this building? And it's not hard to figure out. Like, just kind of.
And it depends, because there's two scenarios. You're either from within the community,
right,
and buying the gym off of the owner, and you've been a member or a coach there for some time. You already know where the bogeys are, right? It's easier in that case, and you also already hopefully have, in that case, some trust.
I disagree. I don't think it's easier. I think in many instances it can be harder if you're internal to the community, because if you know, it's harder to address those things, because like, they're personal to me. So I have to go from kind of like shoulder to shoulder to you to face with you, and many people are risk or conflict averse.
Okay,
in some of that scenario. So it's kind of like, hey, I was an athlete yesterday and I'm going to coach today. Like, sometimes that's harder than just being a random dude who walks in off the street who got hired from outside, who walks in here. I'm like, I don't know you. Well, you're the coach, I guess.
The transition might be harder.
Right.
But I think understanding it,
your general awareness.
Your awareness is higher if you're already there, versus the other scenario, which is I'm showing up and buying a gym that I have not been a part of, the community. In which case, again, you want to get to know the culture. And what I would be looking for is, do I feel like these are my people, and like I'm going to be able to get here and lead, or does this feel like oil and water, and this is just totally not my style? And what I would suggest is start taking classes there, become a member there, get a feel for it, because you may be like, this just isn't my jam of people, in which case everything else is going to be exponentially more difficult or not possible without major bloodshed when you acquire it. So you want to make sure that these are your people, and that you understand, okay, I think I can get in here and handle this from a people standpoint.
Yeah.
That's the first piece.
And there's two versions of that. One is, it's the members are going to be the problem. And I don't mean the whole cohort of members, but like, there's a large enough little clique of members that are just going to cause me a lot of pain. Like, it's a cancerous cell inside of that. And the other version of that is the staff. The staff doesn't want to change. They just do whatever they want. They're not on board with anything. I've not really seen a ton of scenarios when you have both, because that probably folded a long time ago. So it's typically one of those two scenarios. So like, the members might be great, but you got to do some poking around to figure out, be like, hey, who's your favorite coach? And I'm like, oh man, I just really like Nate. He's crushing. But he's like, yeah, maybe don't go to Markus's class. He's kind of a jerk, right? Like, you're like, oh shit. Those are the things you want to know.
Yep.
Like,
okay, so we talked about the people and the culture part. now let's talk about the numbers.
Yep.
Because I'm always blown away when someone gets on and they're like, all right, I bought this business and the numbers weren't what I thought they were. And it's like, well, what do you mean they weren't? Did they lie to you? Did you,
Right.
what were you looking at versus reality?
Right.
And oftentimes, if someone is gatekeeping the numbers and they are trying to sell you a business, and they don't let you log into the bank, or you don't have to log into the bank,
Right.
but that you can sit there with them and look at it.
I get bank
into
statements
the
from them.
membership,
Right.
100%. I want to see the facts.
Right.
I appreciate that you're telling me I can trust you and whatnot, and show me the facts, because you need to understand what you're buying. What is the actual revenue? What is the breakdown of that revenue? What are the actual expenses? How much have you been paying yourself? How? And I need to understand the full world of all things finances, money in, money out, and everything in between, so that I can understand, first of all, how we're going to value this business,
Right.
so I don't overpay.
Right.
But secondly, what is going to be required of me in order to make this thing healthy?
Yeah, in time, energy, and or money.
Right.
Right.
So,
And just for the record, on that same note, in no world in corporate America, in the M&A space, mergers and acquisitions, will you see an acquisition where significant due diligence is done, meaning like, hey, I'm going to buy this thing. I'm going to need you to take your pants off, and I'm going to need to see the full deal, all of
Lights
it.
on.
And we are going to go through it line by line. That's how it works in mergers and acquisitions. Like, there is a full non-disclosure due diligence done back and forth. You're going to show me the goods. I'm going to show you the goods. We're going to negotiate. And we're going to go back and forth on that. That's how it works. And more often than not, that is almost never done on the and listen, if you don't know anything about that, the beauty is like, you're not buying a Fortune 500 company. You're buying a business that probably does less than $20,000 a month and owns less than $50,000 in assets. Like, it's not going to be that hard to work through that.
Right.
And there are companies that will help you do that. But you definitely want to know the numbers. And whatever the numbers say, at least now I'm going to make an educated decision about what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, this is really kind of a shit deal, but I still want to do it. Okay, great. At least you're doing that knowing you're doing it, instead of saying like, oh, I think this is going to be great. And you come to find out like, oh, there's $0 in the bank account. I was not planning on having to cover multiple months of rent to kick this thing off.
right.
You know,
I thought I was coming in and buying new rowers and
Right.
cleaning up the bathroom, and I
Right.
realized I'm operating at a loss that I didn't
know.
know about. Right.
So I would give like a couple, like I would definitely want to see previous year's tax returns. I would definitely want to see at least 3 months, if not 6 months of bank statements.
And have them explained to you.
Yes.
Act like a child and say, can you please explain what did you spend money on and why?
Right.
How much came in and how did that come in from what? This was from product that has a 35% margin.
do not, under any circumstances, accept spreadsheets in this scenario.
Yeah.
If they have a spreadsheet that will corroborate the bank statements and the P&Ls, great. But if they just hand you an Excel spreadsheet, you need to hand it right back to them and be like, that's not going to fly, dude. Like, because I can put fucking anything in an Excel spreadsheet.
Here's the logic with it. This is the lens. Prove it. You don't have to be a dick about it, but just say, awesome spreadsheet. That looks cool. Can you please show me the bank statements and the membership management reports that corroborate this
Right.
data, so that I know
They should
this
all
is
match.
accurate? Yeah, that's that simple. Okay, so now we've talked about actually seeing the numbers and understanding them. Okay, and if you need some help, get some help.
Right. It's not hard. Somebody will help you.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the valuation part. We'll keep this part simple because we're not here to do a whole episode on this. I understand that the person who's selling this business is probably not selling this because it's doing so well and they're going to be able to ask a lot for it. It's going to feel like it's worth more to them than it's actually worth, and this may be a very sad exchange for them when they realize what it's actually worth, because they're like, I have put thousands of hours of blood, sweat, and tears and getting up at 4:30 in the morning and working weekends and doing all this thing. You're telling me this business is worth nothing?
Yeah.
Because
unfortunately, sweat equity is not sellable.
correct. So what you need to be looking at is not just how much revenue does this business create? We need to look at what are people on agreements are, and if so that's, otherwise the membership is worth nothing. The equipment is depreciated. It's used equipment. It's not new equipment. Doesn't matter how much they paid for it. There's a formula you can apply to figure out how much is that equipment actually worth.
Liabilities.
Right, and then the liability. So I had a discussion with a gentleman earlier today about this.
Profit.
He bought.
Owner pay.
Well, and here's the big thing. Let's just make it really easy. Let's just say once we look at everything, we're like, this business is worth $25,000, right? After, hey, we've got a little bit of revenue coming in on some agreements and we've got some equipment, $25,000. But they have a lease that's in place. That's whatever. Make it easy. Let's just call it $1,000 a month, and it's a 3-year lease. That's a $36,000 liability. That if I'm taking over your lease, we're now $36,000 backwards.
Well, if it's worth 25 and it has 36,000 worth.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have to take that off. So now we're actually below zero.
Correct, yeah.
And the actual value of the business, it's not worth more than that. And the gym owner may not love that scenario.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you should say, well, I'm going to give you $0, although that has happened many times where they're just like, I just want out. I'll just take it off of my hands once you've talked about the facts.
Just assume it, yeah.
But just understand that that is a major component to the valuation conversation, and making sure that you do not overpay just because there's used equipment and because there's a few bucks coming in. Remember, you're also taking over this commercial lease, which you have to personally guarantee that if this doesn't work out because those numbers weren't as good as they were or something goes sideways, you are personally on the hook no matter what.
Very unlikely that it is $1,000 lease, by the way.
Yeah, but all I'm getting at is that that has to also be applied to the valuation, and it usually brings it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
I digress. Okay, so now let's just jump ahead. You've purchased the gym. Awesome. What is the first and most important thing to focus on? We've already spoken about it, but there is a very important thing that you need to establish first and foremost when you take over that gym.
The staff needs to be in alignment with where we're going.
And what's the one word that describes that?
Culture.
And trust.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Right? So we have to establish trust with the team and then with the members. So we come in there, we're taking over a very personal business. This is a relationship-centric service business. That means the relationship is the first word, is the most important part to understand here. So I want to make sure that the team, however big or small it is on board with what I'm going to come in and try and do. So I have to sell them on my vision. So that means I have to first clarify what my vision is for this business. And a great kind of structure to utilize here is to say, I bought this business because I see all this potential. You guys are awesome. We've got a great group of people here. And I don't want to change what's awesome about it. I simply want to improve the things that we can improve to make it better for everyone. Mm-hmm. So there's a good kind of starting point of like the general tone of how to approach the staff. Yeah. Get them in on it. Get them on your team so that they're like, we're going to make this better. Awesome. You are here to help us. You're going to make my job better. I'm going to be able to earn more. I'm going to be able to have more of a career here. We're going to make this better for our members. I'm going to get to make an impact doing what I love doing. You got to get them bought in.
And there's two components of that. Number one, vision casting is much more challenging than people think it is. Number two, that means that I, as the new head honcho, need to do some pretty deep work going to this. I need to have clear business priorities. I need to have clear mission and direction, clear core values that are 1, 2, 3. Like, lack of clarity in these transitions is what makes things so challenging for people, which is like, if you're not like, hey, I know this is how we ran things, but this is the direction that we're moving. Here's why we're doing that. Here's what that means for you. And here's the timeline that we are trying to work on. Does anybody have any questions? If you can do that, you're likely to eliminate a lot of things. Or, worst case scenario, you're at least capable of identifying some bogeys right out of the gate.
Who's not on board
Who's
with
not
that?
on board? And they're just like, wait, what the fuck? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So immediately I can now like suss out like who's going to be a problem for me versus they have this underlying shitty tone and kind of like, on the low sabotaging everything that I'm trying to do.
Yep. So getting the team in alignment, and if someone's not in alignment, you gotta rip that out by the root fast. So just know every minute you keep someone on who's working against you.
This is one of the hardest things for people to do.
Yes. And we're going to just go right over it. Is you just got to be able to be okay with removing them and do it in a way to where it's done gracefully but swiftly. And that way you can move on to the next objective, which is now I have to get the community to trust me.
Yeah.
I've got the team in alignment. We're clear on what we're going to make better and why that's going to be awesome and how that benefits them. Now we need to sell the community. And this is where we want to build trust. Now, sometimes you're buying a gym where the culture is broken and unhealthy and toxic. Sometimes you're buying a gym where the people love it. They're just like, yeah, I mean, let's make it better. Cool.
Right.
So getting clear on that and then being able to say, okay, what do I need to do? Later, Mitch. What do I need to do here? And oftentimes that means just coming in and making improvements in the business in ways that your members will feel it,
Right.
not ways that you feel it. It's as tempting as you want. You're like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to raise prices, I'm going to do this, make the business better.
Yep.
Sure. After you've
You gotta
gotten
earn that.
bought in, you have to
that.
earn that.
You gotta earn that.
And this is where making a strategy around what are the areas of the business that's going to make them go, oh, that got better. I love that. Oh, and this got better. I love that too.
Mm-hmm.
We want to create that wake of wins and of perceived value where you build momentum in building the perceived value so that someone is like, okay, like ever since Fern showed up, like,
Things are on the up,
I had
man.
my doubts, but this is significantly better. It's only been 3 months and I love this.
Some low-hanging fruit here are things that are free, which is communicate better, right? Get regular communications out the door, a weekly rundown, a monthly newsletter, something like that. Clean the joint up.
Easy.
Clean the joint up. Rearrange. Get rid of the fucking 3 jerk block sets that you'll never ever use in your life, right? Like you don't need 4 yokes. Like all this stuff that just box owners accumulate over time. Like go in there and spit shine the place, man. Communicate better. Clean the place up. You're going to get a lot of grace just by doing those 2 things alone before you ever do
100%.
anything, right? And again, those cost you like an hour a week and a weekend worth of time. Like we're not talking about huge outputs on your end, right? But those things are immediately felt by the members. They come in and they're like, oh, damn, like I didn't realize that like the bathrooms hadn't been cleaned since 2007. I thought the toilet was just supposed to be yellow, you know? It's just like,
so gross.
Right?
And the third one I would add to that list, which has, in my opinion, is the largest lever, is start making the classes better.
Right.
Make the coaches better.
Yeah.
If you lean in, you're like, we're going to define the ideal class experience. I'm going to start doing evals on my coaches every week for the first couple of months to where every time they're showing up, they're like, dude, the thing I come and consume that I'm really paying you for is getting better every time.
Yeah.
That right there, between come in, detail the place, put a fresh coat of paint on there, rearrange the member area, clean up the bathroom, hang up some new shit on the walls, start communicating better, and make the service better. You do that for just a few months, and people will be like, what do you want us to do?
They're going to ask you, like, our price is going up? And I'm like, I'll let you know when that's happening. But if you just purchase a gym, those 3 things will get you so much equity in the member base that it is bonkers. Like you will get so much out of that I couldn't possibly explain it to you. It gives you the runway that you're going to want to make the changes on the back end that make the business more viable. But like you're going to have to go in there and put some of that sweat equity on the front end. And again, we've seen this and done this many times. There are some upsides to buying a business that is dysfunctional. Is that if you come in and put some basic things in place, you look like a rock star. And it's not going to cost you a ton of time and energy. Then I can start getting into the more nitty-gritty things like the systems, the finances, fix the memberships. Bob has been paying $50 for the past 10 years. Like I can start to correct all of that, but you have to lead with value on the front end. Just like I talked about yesterday. I'm like, we're never going to talk about price as absence of value. And if you're buying a dysfunctional business, the very strong likelihood is that the value is low. I have to bring the value up so that I will get the equity so that I can make those financial changes. And then I'm just going to double down and do it again. I'm going to continue to make it better. I'm going to continue to streamline things and upgrade things as we work through. So if you're about to buy one, if you just bought one, these things that we've just talked about, like educate yourself on what your bogeys would be, right? You know, the big ones, the staff, the culture. Figure out the numbers. Like, you need to know what you're getting ready to walk into, both subjectively and objectively. And then when you get in there, lead with value first. Then you will get the runway that you need to start to fix the quant inside of the business, the quantitative aspects, the numbers, all that kind of stuff. But understand you do have a fantastic opportunity in front of you. It's not always got to be doomsday, but you got to know what you're dealing with. And if you can do that, what you can do is you can have a fantastic opportunity to really serve that community in a way that they are really going to be happy about.
100%. And like we always say, I mean, this is an amazing business to run when you build it right. And you can either turn this from a 3 to 6 month journey, or instead of a 2-year journey to fix the business, into a 3 to 6 month journey and be in a really great spot quickly by following that order of operations. Yeah. And if you're not sure, whether you're about to buy the gym or you just bought the gym, schedule a call. We're happy to hop on. We'll talk you through it. Tell us what's going on. Let's figure out.
We've done it many times. Yeah.
Many times.
I hope you avoid a lot of pain. Yeah.
Just reach out, book a call, and we'll see what's going on and see what you can do to help make sure you're on the right path.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.